And good afternoon, I'm Tracy Sinclair. With me, Eric Soule. He is our Director of Photography here at Alaska's News Source. And we are back with our favorite weekly segment, This Week in Alaska History, celebrating the 250th anniversary of the United States, the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Very excited. That actually happens coming up this July 4th, but our company is doing a full year-long celebration, and this is just one of the ways that we are doing that. Having a lot of fun with it.
Yes, it is. It's a lot of fun each week to look back. One of the things I've discovered is the pipeline comes up every single week. I mean, it was such a major project that it's really intriguing. So,
and and over the years, it's been going for so long that there have been so many milestones and all of those things.
You could do This Week in Alaska Pipeline history. So I stayed away from the pipeline. My apologies, pipeline enthusiasts. I stayed away from the pipeline this week.
I'm a bit of, full disclosure, I worked for the Trans-Alaska Pipeline for 13 years, and I find it a fascinating structure and just a fascinating history, so I am one that, when it comes up on my weeks, I tend to choose them. Because
if you want to know something about the pipeline.
I try. I do try.
So. Well, Tracy, did you know that this month is American Indian and Alaska Native History Month?
I did know that.
And it's interesting because Chief Walter Northway died this week in 1993. He died on November 21st. He was thought to be 117 years old.
Wow, that's amazing.
Do you know why it's thought to be?
No, because they didn't have records of actual births at that point.
No, you didn't go to the hospital. You were just born wherever your family was. And so it just was like, recollections. And people like, who was around when Walter was born? Well, that was like 100 years ago.
That's
don't
amazing.
know. You know, it's funny, the same thing happened to my great-grandmother-in-law. It was like she lived to be 99, but there was always this debate of really how old was she, because they didn't have records. She was born, wherever they were, and they didn't have records for that. So Walter Northway, one of the things he always said was, do not ignore each other. And what he meant by that was take care of each other, which is like a good philosophy, even for us today. Take care of each other, especially during this whole long period, where we're having to take care of each other. It's just a good foundation to live by. Yes,
just an amazing story there. Very good, fun.
And we got a couple of World War II Alaska stories. Basically, the Anton Anderson Memorial Tunnel construction was started on the 19th.
We'll show it a little bit.
This is the tunnel right here, and it is the longest railroad highway tunnel in North America, 2.5 miles long.
And the construction began this week.
Now,
I don't go to Whittier a lot. I think the last time I went to Whittier was when I worked I've been a couple of times. But going through that tunnel, even today, is so fascinating to me. It is just an amazing, interesting drive.
2.5 miles long. It took them a year to punch that through, and it was because of World War II. They needed to get access to the deepwater port in Whittier, and so that's why they put this tunnel through. And it used to be that it was only for the train, and you'd have to load your car onto a flatbed on the train, and then ride the train through on your car, and then unload your car, and then they updated it. Now we get to drive through in our car for a half hour each hour.
Right, yeah, and it is, I know whenever we've gone there to do stories, most recently we were there, Rachel McFerrin and I were there to talk, because they had 3 cruise ships in Whittier, and this is a rarity. Often they will have 2, but have 3 in town in the same day. And so we went there and of course went through the tunnel, and then you're always trying to see when's the next tunnel to go back.
Yep.
When can we get back?
Can we time it out?
Are we going to get back?
Yeah, and our next story involves the World War II construction project as well. On the 22nd of this week, in 1942, they dedicated the Alcan, the Alaska-Canadian Highway, Alaska-Canada Highway. And
which we drove up in 72. I've talked about this before. My family, 6 of us, in a Ford LTD, went from Florida to Pennsylvania to Kansas and then up the Alcan, because my dad was in the Air Force, and we were going from Eglin Air Force Base in Florida to Alaska. Could you put us at 2 farther points?
That's a long ride.
It was a long drive, and not paved, bug shield in front of your grill, and yeah.
Well, for me, the interesting thing about that highway is it got built. They talked about building that highway since like the 20s. Let's connect Alaska. And the funny thing is, it took Pearl Harbor in December of 41, the attack on Pearl Harbor, to go, we got to do this. And then the U.S. Army said, okay, we're going to do this, and they approved it in February of 42. 5 days later, construction started, and it was completed in 8 months.
It's amazing.
And so today, the highway is 1,390 miles long, but it was longer originally because they just like plowed it through, and that we've straightened it out over time, and it's made it shorter. But they built a 1,400-mile highway in 8 months.
It's crazy.
That's an incredible feat.
That is.
And so because of World War II, we got the Whittier Tunnel and the Alcan Highway. Two amazing construction feats came out of that period of time just to give us access. And so I thought, man, we've done all these different Alcan stories. I've done like so many different angles over the years that I thought, let's do something that's a little bit different for an Alcan story. So I picked this story on it's like the 7th civilian car that was coming up for auction that ever drove the Alcan Highway. And so I've got this story on that.
Okay, let's look how we covered this a while back.
Well, the next lot we're going to sell is number 51. It's a 1930 Packard. This was basically America's answer to the Rolls-Royce. This is the known history of the 1930 Packard. It began back in 1946 when H.J. Cappy Roach purchased a Packard in Seattle. He left Seattle in early May 1946 to drive the Alcan Highway, which was scheduled to open for civilian traffic. That's the car. That picture was taken on its way to the Alaska. It is documented as the 8th car to come over the Alcan. He arrived in Anchorage on June 1st, 1946. It's an auction, and the highest bidder gets it. It'll go wherever the money takes it. We've had quite a bit of interest. We've had calls from quite a few states and a couple of foreign countries. This car's 85 years old, right? Our hope is that somebody here in Anchorage steps up and keeps it here in town. It's a great piece of Alaskan history, and it's still looking good,
It is a good-looking car.
It is, and all I can think is we would never, when we drove up it, when it wasn't paved, we would never have driven a car that nice.
Oh,
but
man.
That was the car that's what cars were, and so it was so amazing. That is a beautiful, beautiful car.
Yeah, and so I just thought that was a different take on the Alaska Highway story. And so on the 22nd, which is when the Alcan was dedicated, also on the 22nd in 1916, author Jack London passed away. He was only 40 years old. And his most popular novel, The Call of the Wild, he wrote a lot of his literature based upon his time in the goldfields. He came up as a young man up and over the Chilkoot Trail.
Wow, that's amazing.
And spent time in Dawson, and obviously spent time in Skagway, because that's where you start when you go over the Chilkoot Trail. And Hank Davis did a story on the Jack London Museum for Road Tripping a couple of years ago. And let's take a look at that.
Cool.
He came here during the gold rush, 1897, just like everyone else, hungry, poor, wanting to find some gold.
But instead of gold, London found stories. Stories that would transform him into a literary icon.
Have you read The Call of the Wild or White Fang? Those were his most famous books, but it's a real specialized subject that brings a lot of people here to trace Jack London's history in the Klondike.
The museum takes that history and allows its guests to get a visual sense of what life was like for London during his time in Dawson City.
He actually staked a claim.
Through evidence of his ambitions as a prospector and as a writer.
This is the dog that inspired Jack London's most famous book, The Call of the Wild. We have one known photo of Jack in the North Country. So Jack was 21 years old. Of course, after he became famous, after the Klondike, there were lots of photos taken.
Including one that features London's signature left behind on a cabin wall. Portions of the cabin have been preserved by fans of the author. Half now sits here in Dawson City, the other half in London's former hometown of Oakland, California. I got the rare opportunity to step inside and see the place that one of the Klondike's most famed novelists once called home.
But Jack London said, I came north to search for gold. It was in the Klondike that I found myself.
That is amazing. And looking at that picture, so young.
21 years old.
Oh my
Can
gosh,
you
he just
imagine?
looks so young, didn't he, in that photo?
You know, and if you read any of Jack London's literature, I happen to really like his writings. There's one of his short stories called 1,000 Dozen Eggs, about this group of young men that decided that eggs were selling for like 15 cents a piece, but in Dawson they were selling for $5 a piece.
Oh wow.
So they invested in 1,000 dozen eggs, about $150, and they hauled those eggs up and over the Chilkoot Trail of Dawson to sell them to get rich. That was their stake in the gold claim. But it took so long to get the eggs there that the eggs were spoiled by the time they got them to Dawson.
I was
They were
going to say,
absolutely worthless. And it used to be, you know, when people applied to the station, you get people from all over the country. And so when you get somebody applying from, you know, somewhere that's like all the way on the other end of the country, you're asking, why are you applying to work in Alaska? And they used to say Jack London. They read Jack London when they were younger. And that's kind of changed now.
right.
Because not as many people are reading that type of literature anymore, but they are
Watching TV.
watching, you know, TV, reality TV, all the Alaska reality shows. And so that now when you say, how come Alaska? They say, oh, I watched, you know, I watched this or I watched that or I lost, you know. And so the reality TV shows have kind of replaced Jack London, which,
Oh,
you know.
it's breaking his literary heart that now it's the TV people and not Jack London. Well, maybe this will encourage a couple people that haven't looked at Jack London in a while to pick it up again.
Oh yeah, check out some Jack London. It's good stuff, you know, To Build a Fire, a short story that they showed us that movie in grade school. Absolutely terrifying.
Oh dear.
And
Because that's where he's freezing to death, right?
yes, that's where he and his dog are trying
Okay,
to make
I
their
remember
way down
that.
the river, and he's freezing to death. He's got to stay alive.
Yeah, I remember that.
The dog stays alive.
That counts.
Yeah, it does. And my last story for the week on the 23rd in 1924, the Northern Commercial Company in Fairbanks lowered the price of gasoline 4 cents down to 40 cents. So this is another car story, because cars were still a novelty in Fairbanks in 1924. To get them there, you'd have to put them on the railroad and railroad them up to Fairbanks, or you'd have to put them on a ship and bring them up the rivers into Fairbanks. And it reminded
And
me.
fuel as well. The fuel would how did the fuel get
Oh,
up
yeah.
there the same way?
Yeah, how do you get gasoline to Fairbanks? It's like it not an easy process.
Yeah.
But it reminded me of a story that you and I did in Fairbanks.
This was fun.
And so this is our gasoline story from Fairbanks that we did for Road Tripping a couple years ago.
That were used on the docks down in Valdez.
I quickly connect up with Willie Vinton, the manager here at the Fountainhead Antique Auto Museum, and he gives me a tour.
This is our oldest car.
Okay.
This is 1898. And for you math people, that's over 50 years old.
123 years old to be exact, and it runs. That's one of the unique aspects of this museum.
They have to stay alive. The things that really set us apart from every other museum basically in the world is we can say that out of our entire collection, all but 3 cars run, drive, and get driven. That includes 7 of the 8 cars that they're the only ones that exist in the world.
All of the cars here are pre-World War II. Cars powered by gas, steam, even electric.
This does everything a Prius does,
Oh my gosh.
except it does it with style. This is a 1915 Model T.
Okay.
Have you ever driven a Model T?
I have not. Willie takes us around before I take the wheel, and it's a little more complicated than I'm used to.
That left pedal, that lever, and the middle pedal and the right pedal are your controls.
But with some expert instruction, I'm driving.
Right there. No, not too much.
Okay. Am I down far enough on the
No, you gotta go all the way down.
down? Break up. Stop. I didn't hurt your car, did I?
No, it never complained once.
Oh my goodness, this was amazing. I was terrified that I was going to hurt that car because, and I know it's their show car and that they're used to this. But we brushed up against some trees at some point because I took the corner too close. But he said it was fine and it doesn't look like I messed it up. But oh my goodness, that was so exciting.
I was jealous. I've never driven a car that old.
Yeah.
But when he's explaining to you how to drive that car, I'm like going, there are too many pedals and levers here.
And yeah, the acceleration was a lever that you pulled.
And it was mystifying. The oldest car I've ever driven is, I used to own a 1947 pickup truck. And that was the oldest car I've ever driven. So I was like going, oh man, I want to drive. But it was fun watching you drive that car. And so basically this week, we had Alaska Native history, we've got some military World War II history, and we got cars.
And
that's a good week.
It is a good week. And I think we can both say, if you are in Fairbanks, the Fountainhead Auto Museum.
Oh my goodness.
Even if you're not really into cars, because
No.
I'm sort of into cars, I think they're pretty, but it was fascinating. And there's also a bunch of fashions inserted. There's clothing from the eras of the cars. It's a great place to visit.
Look at the cars in that museum as pieces of art, and you'll be amazed.
Yeah.
Don't look at them as cars.
Yeah.
They're spectacular.
So, well, thank you. Found some interesting things this
Yeah,
week.
It's a good week.
In Alaska history, and thank you so much for joining us as we continue to celebrate 250 years of America.